There's no point in. Here we go. We're going live. Let us know in the comment section what the situation is with regard to sound. David, it's not like a couple of Daleks because we hadn't gone live. Let us know in real time what the sound is like, because it wasn't a Wi-Fi issue at any of the 3 destinations. So we've gone again. We will run for an entire hour. I'm Paul John Dykes. That's the mighty Quinn. And that's Kevin Graham. Perfect, lads. Thank you. As soon as there was a tiny wee glitch, a big shout out to Monty, because he came on and started shouting, amateurs, amateurs. I got it. Kev gets it. That's us. Absolutely. We're rocking. All good now, guys. See, we do not do things by half measures. If it's going to sound rank, we won't do it. And yeah, we will be in a big shiny studio in Glasgow very, very soon. And if there's an issue with that Wi-Fi, we've had it. Bro new, Simon Fedeni. Big shout out to Simon Fedeni. I don't know if Kevin knows Simon, but I met him at the game, fan zone rather, on Thursday night. Big shout out to you and your mate. We spoke about Rio Atati and the fact that he had to switch it on and turn it on Thursday night. And that's exactly what he did. Right, this is your Monday afternoon stream. It is a happy Monday, and we're going to stick with the Stone Roses mug for the foreseeable future. Manny will be laid to rest on the 22nd of December as well. So, everybody, we're talking Martin O'Neill. And just before you came in, Kev Graham, I was talking about the impact that he made first time round. You've written about it extensively. You've written a great piece about it extensively, actually. Hopefully that will be published at some point in the future. And how, I'm not going to say we were lucky to get him, but we got him at a point in his trajectory where the thought process, Kev, was that he would end up at Man United at some point. That's where he was going. That was his career path. Comes to Celtic, wins us a treble, takes us to a European final. First to do both since Jock's team was in charge. The impact was incredible. But 5 years later, he leaves the football club. And in the 20 years since then, Kev, I never thought I'd see the day where Martin O'Neill would be in the dugout unless it was for a charity or a benefit game. But he comes back, 73 years of age, absolutely charms everybody that speaks to him. But more importantly than all of that, he wins games of football. And that's all he talks about, is winning games of football. We've done it again at Easter Road at the weekend. What was your thoughts?
It's great that Dermot Desmond has managed to get Martin O'Neill on a zero contract. Just phone him up the day before.
He's not got a clue what's happening week to week.
Hey, by the way, we need you in tomorrow. We've got a funeral on. We need extra staff, and so that's what seems to be happening. That's the way Martin would make you think that it's going to be happening. There was a wee period probably during Brendan's first spell when it looked like Brendan could have been the greatest Celtic manager that I've seen. And there was a wee possibility. And always at the back of my mind, I was going, nah, it's going to be Martin. It's going to be Martin. And I think that's been cemented over, especially this season, has been cemented. Martin O'Neill is for me, is the greatest manager I've seen in my lifetime.
Times two.
He's been brilliant for us. Really, really good. I still think he's playing a wee bit of a part. And again, there's folk that really want us to actually stay on in that. But I think this wee role where he's just came in as a sort of mild-mannered janitor, and he's got the team over the line, has been really, really good. I thought yesterday we were absolutely fantastic. After a really, really tough Thursday night, where we were brilliant as well. But just to dig in and see that, game out yesterday was great. Hibs get the penalty. We can debate all day and long if it is a penalty kick. Unfortunately, by the rules, it is. But again, it's still debatable. It's also debatable.
Did it hit his hand before his shoulder? That was what we were debating yesterday. Did it hit his hand first before the shoulder?
I think it hit his hand first. But whether it should have been given as a penalty or not, there was no way whatsoever Nick Walsh was not going to go to that monitor and say, no, that's not a penalty, after he didn't send off Austin Trusty for decapitating Jack Butland. There was no way that he was going to overturn that. But we could have folded at that point. under Brendan at the start of the season, that team would have folded. And what we done yesterday for me was suck the life completely out of the game. And Hibs never got back into it, really. Look, the Casper made a great save with about 4 minutes to go. We handled everything that they threw into the box. At no time did it look like that we were going to creak under the pressure. I just thought it was a great result. I mean, I think Sky brought up a stat that the 9 times that we've been, how many times we've been to Easter Road since 2004 after European ties. We had only won 1. And I think we had drew 9 and lost 5. And the last person to win 1 was Mr. O'Neill. Bizarrely enough, eh? So, again, it's a cliche, and I need to put over to folk who can more about football and this, and you see it all over Europe. Teams do get a European hangover, they really do. So to go to a really, really tough away venue that has been tough for us over the last few seasons, no matter if we've been flying or not. Hibs always make it tough for us at Easter Road and come away with a victory. Aye, it's been a great week, absolutely brilliant week. 3 away games, 3 victories. Right, you can argue the performance at St Mirren wasn't the best. The performance in Rotterdam was utterly fantastic. But yesterday it was a case of getting the job done, and that's it. We got the job done. Brilliant.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to bring in plenty of comments today because we're at a situation now, Quinny, where Martin O'Neill's record cannot be, it can't be questioned since he's come back in. Unbelievable. And yeah, there was 1 defeat against Midtjylland away from home, but I've said this over the weekend. I think by the end of the season, you'll look at Midtjylland's performance in that campaign, in that competition, and say, well, yeah, they were going to beat us that night, regardless, kind of thing. They're a right good side and on a good run. However, that Feyenoord game, absolutely outstanding test of character as well, Kev, to consider that we came back from a goal down. When Hibs were, I'm not even going to say piling on the pressure, but when they were trying to turn the screw themselves, Quinny, I was looking at the team and I was thinking that not so much the full-backs, to be fair, at that stage, but the 2 centre-halves and Casper, I'm looking at those 3 thinking, I'm pretty comfortable with this. These guys can defend us for the next 5-10 minutes. And I didn't really have an issue with that. After the game, a lot of the comments were coming and saying, we made it by the skin of our teeth. Kev makes the point, this is post-Europa League. This is post a travel to the Netherlands on Thursday night, coming back, and I think it showed near the end. But if I'm going to pinpoint anybody, and I'll come to Yang and Engels, who I thought I played well, Scales, Trusty and Casper, for me, absolute linchpins at the weekend, Quinny.
Yeah, it was a great defensive shutout in that way, and it's really harsh to have not got a clean sheet to take home off the back of it. After the St Mirren game, there was people trying to say like, "Oh, this is like a champions win." This is a sort of game that champions win because we didn't play well and we won. And I disagreed with that on that game because it felt like, we kind of spoke about it on here, I'm sure, the Monday after it, but it was more of a, it was a kind of deja vu to some of the bad games we played that season. We kind of got out of jail with the McGregor long shot at the end. This game is a lot more of like, this is a champions win for me. Away from home, we took the lead. A wee bit of adversity came our way. And ultimately, we got over the line with like good defending. Like Casper's been really solid. I've seen some strays coming for him after the penalty. Like I just kind of read that personally as he thinks the penalty taker's going down the middle, and if the keeper's going to take that decision, then fair enough to him. He doesn't do it every time. But yeah, the defense have been so solid, and it was one of the things that kept Rodgers the last ebb of Rodgers's time at Celtic afloat was that we weren't conceding. We weren't scoring very many, but that defense, if you look across the season, like very few teams have put goals past us, never mind more than one. So, you can really rely on them. You can really feel it. And having the likes of, I know Ralston wasn't great at the weekend, and I see some of the comments around him as well, but having the likes of in this game, like Tierney to come off the bench, in the previous game, like Murray's come off the bench and at least kind of, held the fort with Scales moving at left back. The defense isn't, although it's not fantastic, like, again, you're not really worried about anyone playing. It's not like, you rewind time. There's been a few centre backs or full backs where they've played. Or some people get there. Oh, that guy shouldn't be good enough. He's no this or that, and gives a bit of nerves into the crowd sometimes. But not this defence.
I will mention the crowd in a moment because there was a very interesting tweet from our good friend JP Mason, who is a massive away game attender. I know that you have been for many, many years, Kev, over the years, going to away games. Personally, the 1990s was my busiest period on away days. And JP will go to some lengths, sometimes even, wearing a mask and a fake moustache and going in an away end just to see Celtic playing. But Easter Road, I mean, it was so obvious that there were so many empty seats, Kevin. I've yet to see anybody. This isn't entitled. This isn't people say, Celtic fans think that. Absolutely not. What's the business sense? I don't get it. What's the business sense, Kev? I remember, listen, you and I are big fans of the Anfield Wrap. We talk about it all the time. The guys have helped us massively over the years. We've met up with them a few times as well when we were operating off an iPhone. It might not even have been an iPhone. It might have been a pager back in the day, and the Anfield Wrap boys told us, you need to get a camera, guys. Remember that?
I do.
I've lost my train of thought. I listened to an episode years ago. They spoke to a really interesting guy that Liverpool had. They had employed him on a consultancy basis to come in and fill the empty seats. And his view on it was that a club like Liverpool should never have an empty seat, never. And this guy was brought in, and he would go to competitions, and he would go to things like boxing events, and he would go to arenas, and he would make sure that by hook or by crook he would get bums on seats, right? And then I see Scottish football, and I think to myself, wow, right? So it's not as big a sell. We all know this. It's not as big a sell as the English Premiership. Yet there's a demand for those empty green seats, Kev, and Hibs decide not to sell them. And I've seen a figure, I don't know how accurate this is. They will have lost 100 grand from the game by refusing to sell those empty seats to Celtic fans. What is the thinking behind it? Honestly, I can't understand it, Kev. Can you explain it to
me? Parochial bias, just trying to be smart. They hate Celtic. They hate Celtic winning at their stadium. They'll listen to a small number of season ticket holders who may have to get moved for those games. I don't know the makeup of what Hibs have done with that stand behind the goals, because we used to get that whole end. We used to be not easy to get a ticket for Easter Road, but you always, in the back of your mind, you always thought, I could maybe, if I'm hunting for one, I could get one for Easter Road, no problem. No anymore. It's just one of them that's just virtually like Tynecastle. It's virtually a no-go. Like Pataudry now, I think we used to get 2,800 for Aberdeen, and now we're down to 800. So it's a virtually no-go as well. What you're actually getting, I went to the football in the 80s, 90s and the early 2000s, going to away games, and it was part and parcel of being a Celtic fan. And it's no longer part and parcel of being a Celtic fan, especially for the younger ones, or a lot of the younger ones. And if you actually have a look at the demographic of the Celtic away support, apart from the boys, the Green Brigade, and the guys from Bailliston that are always there as well, we're a very middle-aged old support, travelling support, and that's something that we're going to need to look at.
We're losing a generation of
we
away.
Could be losing a generation of guys wanting to go away. I was watching that yesterday, and I says to my dad, I says, this is ridiculous. I says, that stand at the bottom's half empty and there's nobody sitting up the top. I went, where, as you say, Paul, where is the business sense in it when you've got guys like myself, and even I'll take my daughter and that would sell at that stand, that want to actually go to that game. I like Livingston's idea. Livingston have fired the idea of home advantage, really, and they've went, well, no, we'll give you 7,500 tickets. If I'm going to an away game now, the only away game I'm likely to get a ticket for is Livingston.
And Joe Hart left the football club, right, after all the European nights and trophies, and he said there's nothing like Livingston away, right? So in terms of the atmosphere and the spectacle, it obviously adds to it, doesn't it?
You have a look at St Mirren last week, and the St Mirren says their tendencies have went up since they've only started giving Celtic and Rangers the one stand behind the goals. But then they says that there's more of those fans have came out. I'm actually going to just put that down to the fact that St Mirren are doing well, and they fans will disappear like snow off a dike. once they actually start like no doing well again, eh? And the next thing you know, they'll have to try and give us the 2 stands behind the goals and stuff like that. You look at Kilmarnock as well. There's no way that we're ever getting the same allocation at Kilmarnock anymore, because they've built offices in the back of one of the stands that we used to get, and a disabled section. I'm not saying nothing about the disabled section. That's such as their right, but you go to Kilmarnock and there's thousands of empty seats. You go anywhere in Scotland, there's thousands of empty seats, and they've got 2 supports, which, when they talk about Scottish football being one of the best supported leagues in Europe, let's not argue, it's down to 2 clubs.
Yes,
it's massively skewed because of 2 clubs.
Of course, it's almost an anomaly, Kev. Almost an anomaly. No, I'm going to pick up on a few of your points here. The first one being that if you are a new club, let's say, well, so that wasn't a dig. It wasn't meant as a dig. If you're a club being promoted into the Scottish Premiership, right, Quinny, and you're at the helm and you're making business decisions, you are going to look at Celtic and Rangers games. You're rubbing your hands. Exactly, you are. You're saying, right, how can we accommodate those big fixtures, those 4 big fixtures in the season? I mean, to the point where there might even have been a suggestion that if Queen's Park had got into the Premiership, and they were minutes away from doing it under Owen Coyle, by the way, that, you know, they would have played home games against Celtic at Hampden and Rangers at Hampden, and they would have cashed in for those 4 big fixtures. And these are the things that Scottish football clubs, I think, should be focusing on, because all we hear, Quinny, is constantly, whenever Celtic win a trophy, whenever Celtic have success, it's the financial handicap of the other clubs, etc., user cash rich. Yet you're turning money away. You can't have it both ways, Quinny. You can't say to us, you know, you only win because you've got money, when you're refusing to make money yourself.
Yeah, it's a kind of society thing, I think, a little bit, isn't it? Because again, Celtic, it's not as if we've got some billionaire that just comes in and floods the bank accounts of money and splashes on players every window and throws our weight around. It's actually quite the opposite, which is part of the problems we've had over the last month or two, that we don't really throw our weight around, we don't throw our money about, and don't like dominate the way we should. And it's very, and again, like Celtic and Rangers dominate so much of the spectacle of Scottish football. It's very much in the zeitgeist at this point of Bodo Glimt and Midgetland, and take your pick of other fancy clubs from around Europe, and you're even beginning to see Hearts joining that club now, where you don't need to have crazy money. There is so much money in football now that, like, let's call a spade a spade. Most clubs in the SPFL could buy a guy for 800 grand if they really wanted to. You know, they could, you know, amortize it over 5 years and do payment plans and stuff like that. It's not like back in the 90s where doing £1 million transfers and that sort of thing was like, it was a haves and a have-not situation. There was still a big gap in finances, don't get me wrong on that. But as you can see with like so many of the teams in the SPFL, like, they don't struggle to sign players. They don't struggle to renew their squad. A lot of them do all right at selling guys into like League One in England, which gets them some transfer fees on occasions and gets them their own wee place in the. But again, like, I think all these issues around like not selling Celtic tickets, fans and whatever, it stems from really the club not knowing where they're going. Because why would you sell Celtic all these tickets? To earn more money. Why do you want to earn more money? Because this year we couldn't sign players that we wanted to sign, or we wanted to redevelop the youth system. We didn't have the money for it. So we're going to sell Celtic these tickets for the next 4 seasons, and Rangers. And in 4 seasons, we'll make an extra £2 million. And then when we get that £2 million, we're going to make our stadium better. We're going to do our youth facilities up. We're going to do whatever.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But when it's just selling the tickets, pocketing the money, getting hammered 4-0, and then nothing changes, nothing moves on, of course the fans of whatever club are going to be raging, because it's like, we're just getting bent over here. There's no benefit to this. So I think if clubs were a lot better at selling the club to whatever the community we're talking about here, like, we're not going to win the league, but what we want to do is we want to win a cup every 3 years, or we want to get to a cup final every 5 years, or could we get to Europe? We've never done that before. Whatever their wee agenda could be, and I don't mean we to be derogatory, but I mean, like, you know, on scale, then if they sell that better, then just doing the best thing for the business, which is making money, becomes a bit easier.
No, you're 100% right. It's the vision, and it's selling it, and it's communication and engagement, isn't it?
Definitely is. I mean, you've just done something that no club in Scottish football would do, because they're not that forward thinking, Quinny. They're not that, like, You look at St Johnstone last season, right? St Johnstone gave us free stands the last time we went to McDermott Park. We ended up getting beat 1-0 that day. St Johnstone gave us free stands, no free fans. They gave us free stands, mainly because one, they knew they were getting relegated, and that extra cash for them going down was going to be an massive pot for them. That was the only reason that they gave us the free stands. And the St Johnstone fans still moaned about that. No kind of realising that
They won.
the one, but also the cash that they got for us and Rangers after that day has probably done them well in the Championship, because that pot of cash was there. Also, the St Johnstone fans should also remember that when they actually won the 2 trophies that season, that was after 2 seasons of having Celtic and Rangers getting free stands in their stadium, and they could afford a better squad. So that's another thing. I'm not letting my own club away with it either, because we do treat away fans dreadfully. Hibs fans can moan all they want, but we gave them 7,000 tickets for a Scottish Cup tie last year. We gave them as much because we couldn't sell the seats. So we've done it. And also our club have got to have a look at the empty seats and have a look at the ticket exchange scheme. We can't slag other clubs for having empty seats when you look at a Celtic home game and there's empty seats all over the shop because season ticket holders have not turned up for whatever reason it is. So I can't slag other clubs when our club are just as bad.
No, the ticket exchange, again, I probably did hear this for the first time listening to the Anfield Draft several years ago, Kev, and it is something that really, it's a software upgrade that's required. You know, it's a program. That's what it is. It's a little bit of investment. Quinny, you make a point there about you bring the money in over a period of, let's say, 4 seasons, and you then put that money in, reinvest that money into, let's say, your youth academy, and from within that youth academy, you produce 2 players that you can then sell on. The money then comes back into the club. So, I mean, it's not just about give Celtic and Rangers tickets. It's about building your own business, isn't it? Lots to discuss today of all days. Martin O'Neill is still in charge. He told us he'd be away after the international break. He's still here. He's told us before the game yesterday he's going to be managing Celtic against Dundee on Wednesday night. Kevin has hit the nail on the head. It's a week-to-week deal, I think. By the way, Paddy Lavery, because I said that you were working on a Martin O'Neill story, just some words of support from Paddy for you, Kev. He is delighted that you're working on new material by the looks of it, Paddy. Thanks for the support, mate. Always an absolute pleasure to hear from you.
Well, he's lucky that it's not a book.
I was going to let the cat out of the bag.
He's lucky it's not a book. So there you go. I know Paddy likes audiobooks.
Nice retort. Right, here we go. Culture. John Higgins knows the score. You may have seen the video of John Higgins standing next to, was it Jimmy White and Alan McManus? Am I right?
Yes.
And he was talking about the Tommy Gemmell statue memorial committee raising funds to build a statue in his hometown. Absolutely phenomenal. Love to see that. I was at the unveiling of the Bobby Lennox one, the Billy McNeil one. I have visited the Jimmy Johnston one. I think there should be one in every single home, village or town of every Lisbon Lion, because it's something that probably will never happen again in Scotland. Anyway, Tommy Gemmell, a man who scored 2 European Cup final goals, is the latest Lisbon Lion who will be immortalised in bronze. And Kev, we've spoken to several people who have been involved in these campaigns, and it's a long, drawn-out process of fundraising, and it's red tape, and it's dealing with the councils and all the rest of it. And John Higgins had quite a bit to say about it, actually. So fair play to him. We've been in touch with the organisation, and we've asked how much more they need to raise. So we're going to get them on the show, and we're going to try and help them to raise that last bit of cash, get them over the line. Absolutely nothing to do with us. We just, we have a platform, and we would be more than happy to allow them onto that platform with a fundraising link under the video and stuff like that. So yes, we'll definitely follow that up. Jonathan Brown, want to sign Sriracha permanently. He is a player. I'm going to throw this one over to Quinny. We've spoken about Sriracha. That's a brilliant picture. Look at that. That is probably how Dyson's hair's going at the moment. You never know when you get to Dyson. That is a belter. It reminds me of that fantasy football sketch, Kev. That's of our era on Jason Lee. Remember that? They got into trouble for that.
Aye, they did, and they sort of admitted now. That was maybe a bit below the belt, but
Jason Lee said it ruined his career, you know.
nah.
That wee ditty. There you go. Check it out on YouTube. Sriracha, let's discuss, because I've been saying for a while, Quinny, that this left back position, obviously the returning Kieran Tierney, I was delighted that he was back. I think there always needs to be a core group in a team like Celtic who have come through the ranks, do understand the fabric of the club and the expectations and the standards. And Tierney is one of them. He's gone away. He's got unbelievable experience at Arsenal and in Spain, and he's come back to Celtic. Some people say he's not as good as the player that left the football club. I think he's still struggling a wee bit with the fitness at the moment. But in the meantime, we're on to our third short-term left-back loanee in a row. And he follows Baye, of course, and Schlupp. But I think Sriracha looks like the best of the lot of them. Back from injury, straight back into the starting 11. What do we do with this guy? Because obviously there isn't an option to buy, but that doesn't mean to say there won't be the option to buy once the loan deal's finished. It's just not been worked into this particular deal. You leave yourself quite open to the escalation, I guess, of the transfer fee if you don't have the option, don't you?
A little bit. I don't. But remember how Sriracha came to us? Boca Juniors were shopping him about. Like, they don't have any need or requirement or designs.
You telling
for
us
him.
it wasn't because we've got a great scouting network over there, eh?
I know it's
Isn't
going to
that
shock
where
you,
we got Bernabé? I mean, we do all right for left backs in Argentina, do we not?
Yeah, well, yeah, we certainly have form for it, I guess. But yeah, by all reporting that came to us, it was Sriracha's agent was on the shop for him, and again, like, they got him as like a free transfer. I'm pretty sure I'm right in remembering this. When he left Europe, might have been Levante or I forget where he was precisely, and he will have been on like somewhat European wages going back to Boca. Boca and River are always quite happy to, bring guys back from Europe, and they normally get paid better than the average, like, let's say, guy in the team or guy in the league or whatever. But they've done that with another left back, and that's why Sriracha, along with his injury record, which we've already felt a little bit, kind of moved him down the pecking order. So I don't think it'll be much of an issue. I think if Celtic picked up the phone and said what he's after, if it wasn't anything too wild, it's probably going to be a price Celtic would probably stomach. But Celtic are always going to haggle down and wait until the 11th hour to see if they crash their bottle and we'll just geese him or something, kind of like Seville with Iheanacho, where they ended up just like, fine, we'll just cancel his contract and you can take him, kind of thing. I don't know. So I don't think it'd be expensive. The wages, like, again, I don't think it'd be on something we couldn't accommodate, but it's just, would Celtic accommodate that for another left back alongside Tierney's, cost of the squad? Because it did seem like, well, when we're signing Tierney, we knew that, and they wouldn't quite give Taylor what he wanted. So if Sriracha's after Taylor money, we already know it just won't happen. So it depends on, I think, where he's at. For Celtic, for us as fans, he's great. We love him. He's been a great kind of smash impression. But I don't think what we've seen over the first 6 months is going to be, in good and for bad, really any different to the next, let's say if we signed him for a 3-year contract. Like, he has had injury history. We've seen that already ourselves. And we knew when Tierney came back, we needed not just Tierney, but another left back, because Tierney would need managed and controlled and whatnot. So they seem to have not, so far, none of them have been injured. Both of them haven't been injured together, which has been good. We've always had one of them, which has been fine. But you do kind of set yourself up, I think, with Sriracha and Tierney long term, that one day both of them will be injured, and then we're bringing back Adam Montgomery on loan, or what we do? Mitchell Frame's left, hasn't he? So
you're probably playing Liam Scales out there, which I would rather not, simply because of the partnership he's built with Trusty at the moment, Quinny. But you're right, Sriracha's had quite an interesting career path. The big money.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. The big money was when he's gone to Leipzig at 12 million euros at the time. They eventually free him, and he's without a club for a spell before he goes to Levante, and then it's a nominal fee of about £1.5 million when he goes to Boca Juniors. So he's a player that I've taken to him, Kev. I just think that, he's quite unpredictable at times, but not in a bad way. He can do things in terms of an attacking sense. He hits the post at the weekend. He's an attacking force. And I said at the beginning of the season, I had come to
this reminds me, sorry, we've got Inamura. I forgot about that.
Oh, right. I need to touch on that. Thanks for bringing it up. I'm going to touch on Inamura and some information I received on the 2 Japanese boys that we brought in. But we do have him. Whether or not he'll ever play for the club again remains to be seen. But we've got a situation, I think, where Sriracha, Kev, has given us has he given us as much as what Taylor would have done? Because I was all for keeping Taylor at the beginning of the season, and knowing that we were having to manage Kieran Tierney. Taylor's left. It's not really worked out for him. I ended up sitting next. I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when I was down in Leeds. I ended up sitting next to two Greek football fans. One of them's based in the States. One of them's based in London. And so obviously we spoke about Giakoumakis and Taylor and all the different links. Ange Postecoglou was a massive discussion point as well. And we finally, I am absolutely meandering my way through this answer or question. We finally got to Barkas, guys, right? And I just said to him, I was like, right, we spent £5 million on this guy. What was the story? And he just started laughing. He goes, nobody in Greece could believe you spent that money on Vasilis Barkas. He said he had one good season, which was completely unexpected. And when he finally left for £5 million, they all thought we were off our heads. And they were right. So, Kev, Marcelo Saracchi, is he a player that you've looked at and you're thinking? Because let's be honest, we did like Schlupp for a spell. Baye gave us some indication of the talent that he was. But Saracchi, I think he's a keeper. Would you make efforts to keep him at the club?
For what we've seen, yes, definitely. I like his energy. I like his energy and enthusiasm. He can actually play a bit as well. He's got that wee bit of South American devilment in him, which I like.
As long as it's not as much as Bernabe, he had too much of the devilment in him, didn't he?
He didn't know what was going on half the time. He was just charging about like
on and off the park, by the way.
He was. Again, he's probably ticked the box that our board wanted them to tick, i.e. a cheap replacement for Taylor, who means that Taylor hasn't been missed. And so they've probably saved about £12,000 a week in wages. And they've went, we're quite happy with that. That's been a good deal. Again, we're going to have Wilfred Nancy is going to come in and he's going to have a look at the squad. And so anything that we want, anything that we're saying now could actually change where Saracchi could actually be. Could he play on that left-hand side if Nancy does go to a 3-4-3? Who knows? But we all knew it doesn't matter in the summer. We're still going to need another left-hand sided defender stroke wing back to cover Tierney, unless we do go to a back three and Tierney ends up slotting in the left-hand side of that back three, which may happen. But I can't see that change happening soon. I like Saracchi, I really do. I think he's done a good job for us. But I'm still of the opinion that if we're going to get better, anybody's can get replaced. But
no, I don't mind that at all, Kev. That's been your mantra for a while now. Even like pick your best player and say, right, he can be replaced. And if that's your outlook, then you'll always improve.
I mean, I've loved what he's done. But folk will go, well, he hasn't had the bars low this season. I've seen that says about Liam Scales. I think Liam Scales has been our player of the season so far. But folk will go, that shows you how far that we've fallen. Aye, maybe it does. But the fact is, I'm bloody glad Liam Scales is playing for Glasgow Celtic, isn't he?
He's bloody glad. Old school.
I am. So it doesn't matter if there's a bigger picture, but this precise moment in time, I was 100% glad Liam Scales was in Rotterdam and Easter Road yesterday.
I agree with you.
That's it. So when we're talking about Saracchi, he's bloody fine for what we're actually doing at this precise moment in time. but that can change very, very quickly. And some folk, you're not allowed to change your opinion at times, seemingly on this.
No, the thing is, it's of its time. Your opinion is of its time. If someone's playing badly and you comment on it, that's because of what you're seeing. But that can change with the performance, Kev. But when I mentioned Zina Moore, I'm just going to share this because sharing information on Acsom is always good fun because people think, who do you think you are in the know and all this? Right. So we're all been wondering about Paul Tisdale. And this is a big discussion point at the moment, simply because Paul Tisdale is really, majorly involved in the appointment of a new manager. And then the January transfer window, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say so, is going to make or break our season. You know, I don't think that's me just, you know, throwing that out. I seriously think January and the transfer window will make or break what we do for the rest of the campaign, because what Martin O'Neill's getting out of this team is the absolute maximum. He is squeezing every single drop out of what we've got at the moment. Other managers wouldn't have been able to do it. So Paul Tisdale is a huge factor in everything that's going to be happening between now and the end of the season. And there's been a lot of discussion around how he ended up at the football club. It was questioned at the meeting I was at with the CEO and the CFO, and we were basically given lip service, and it's been proven as such. We were given lip service. So there was a train of thought that Paul Tisdale was brought to the football club by Brendan Rodgers. So, obviously, what you try your best to do is speak to as many people as possible to find out as much information as you can. And when you can legitimise that information, I think it's all right to share it. So, Paul Tisdale wasn't brought to the football club by Brendan Rodgers. He was known to Brendan Rodgers. And you guess what the link was, guys? Come on, that Celtic icon. He played with Celtic once. Anton Rodgers. Anton also played for Exeter City. Connie's laughing because you've just pictured him in that friendly game with the peroxide hair. Anton Rodgers played for Exeter City whilst Paul Tisdale was the manager there, and Brendan and Paul Tisdale got to know each other from that particular involvement. But that's not the reason why he was brought to Celtic. Brendan did not bring him to Celtic. There was a relationship there. He was brought to Celtic by Dermot Desmond. And we actually questioned on the night of that particular meeting, we questioned the process that the club followed and the recruitment process of the guru. How did you bring in the doctor? And, you know, they kind of stumbled through the answer. Go and check the minutes. But they more or less told us a falsehood in relation to that. He was appointed by Dermot Desmond. Simple as that, right? And he's going to have a big part to play in relation to the new gaffer coming in. And he also had a massive part to play, as would be expected, Kev, because he's director of football, right? Or head of football operations, sorry. Same thing, different title. Inamura and Yamada. Brendan Rodgers had no part whatsoever to play in the signing of those two players. Now, people might be going, of course he didn't. We all knew that. Well, that is the situation. And those two players were signed basically on the say-so of Paul Tisdale, and they were signed off by you-know-who. And it was the Peter Lawwell. So these two guys, I don't know what the future holds for them. But what I would say, particularly with Yamada, who was in and around the squad when Iheanacho dropped out through injury, O'Neill doesn't seem to fancy him either, Quinny. So even though the circumstances around bringing those two players to the club were not ideal, they're maybe simply not good enough. Because if two managers say so, you tend to think, right, maybe they're not just up to scratch.
Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't it? Because we did, you know, he gave a chance to everyone. Callum Osman became a hero. Again, he's kind of maybe been forgotten since his injury, but, you know, it was definitely a blank slate. The best players will get some minutes. You know, the problem solvers will get their chance. And, yeah, he's just, you know, Bernardo came off the bench at the weekend. You know, we're starting to see more minutes for so many players under O'Neill, but not Shin. Yeah, not Inamura, which, you know, when I watch all the stuff Celtic put out on social media and the training videos, like, Inamura's always in them. He's always quite, you know, like, looks he's enjoying himself, looks like he's getting stuck into training and he's doing his best. I don't always see Shin in the training videos. I don't always see him, you know, what they show you, what they edit, who knows, right? And what you remember on top of that as well. But I've just got this kind of thing where, I don't know, I've got something telling me that Shin's, maybe Balikwisha's not, maybe Balikwisha was in the same mold before Brendan changed, but I've got this feeling that they've said, I'm out. Like, no, this isn't the move I was sold. And he's telling his agent, like, just get me out of here. Because there's no, like, Martin O'Neill even name dropped Balikwisha and Bernardo in a pre-match press conference. Shin's nowhere near any of this. He has played J-League football before. He should have some credibility to be in the squad, you know, you would think, unless it's just total bridge burnt. You know, it's games of bogey on this one.
I'm concerned because, I mean, the players we brought in, Quinny, Simpson Pusey's disappeared from view as well, by the way, and not injured like Osman.
Yeah, you got a game, but
yeah, you bring these guys in. Inamura's had one game, Simpson Pusey's had one game. If, for example, in January these guys end up leaving, Kev, it's a terrible indictment on the recruitment team, the recruitment process. How long can they continue to blame Brendan Rodgers on this? Because they did try that. You know, he basically signed off every deal was the final kind of statement of Dermot Desmond. But we know that's not the case. We know it's not the case because that's only one version of events. And when you dig a wee bit deeper and players are getting brought to the club that the manager doesn't want, and then they're being sold again in the January, 6 months later, it shows that the recruitment doesn't work. And my big concern is the only thing that's changed in that recruitment process is the fact that the manager's going to be different. I mean, nothing else has changed. It's the same process.
It shows that the recruitment hasn't worked, but the club will say it's worked if we punt these guys on in 6 months and didn't lose any money. Then they'll go, right, that's fine.
Like, it's kind of not bad. Let's see if you could, like, loan Shin out, and, like, what we happened with Bernabei, we didn't really make money on O, but, like, if you can do things like that, that's not bad. That's kind of good. You know, we just want to kind of scale that up a bit, but you should be buying guys to use them. I think it's the main problem here, you know, but if you can get out with making money, that's, you know, there's something to be said for that.
Well, that's basically that's what Maloney will probably revert back to doing, the pathway development. The pathway development guy is basically there to make sure that even if your player doesn't make an impact in the first team, he gets loan moves that makes them attractive to make sure that you get money for them. That is the way. That's the way that role works from my understanding. I mean, you're right, Paul. Tisdale is basically a sporting director without any executive powers, even though he's got the name head of football operations. So we've maybe got to say that the last 2 seasons transfers have not been good. They haven't been good whatsoever. So the recruitment needs to change. The scouting needs to get better. What we're looking for needs to be better. It was interesting when you were talking about Barkas there, that when he says he had one good season, he overperformed on one season. Yeah. That seems to be a theme with us when we take risks on guys. When guys overperform for 20 or 30 games, for example, Shin in Amura, if you looked at their data just before we actually signed them, they had overperformed for what they had done previously. And then we take the punt on them. There's the Virgil van Dijk. We always remember that if Van Dijk had played 10 more games in the Dutch league, he would never have ended up at Celtic, because we had took the punt that early. We had went and says, right, if we wait any longer, Van Dijk's not going to come to us. And we seem to be doing that quite a lot with these guys, where guys have had a good 6 months and we're going, right, we're taking the punt here. And maybe that says where we are. We are trying to turn Honda Civics into sports cars, and that'll probably continue. But if you're continuing down that vein, you're going to get more failures than actually successes, because you will get guys who have just had a purple patch, who have been lucky and maybe 25, 30 games, then all of a sudden they revert back to normal. And look, see if you were actually being truthful. And this was something I said straight after the cup final. It's about Daizen Maeda. Maeda's perfect time to sell was the summer, because in the back of my mind there was always a doubt that he would never have another season like that again.
Good point.
Based on what we had seen over the previous 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And he's not polished as a footballer. And you were going like that. This is maybe a good time to sell, because his value is extremely high, and we do not know if this is going to be his new normal or if he is actually going to reach that height again. So it would be interesting to see. It will be interesting what fee that we do get for Dyson if we decide to twist in January. And you can actually say the same about Kuhn. We probably sold at the right time there, and that was probably down to, by the way, we didn't think that he's going to be as good as this again. So this is why we've done it. But it works on the other hand that we're bringing in guys. You look at Teneke, how many they signed him for £2 million last year, his club, and we've doubled that value because he's had a good season for them. But you can actually see the level, especially in Europe, he's too lightweight for Europe. He's never played at that. He can carry the ball. He looks really good. I saw somebody in the comments calling him Mikey Johnson, and I just had to laugh there because I understand where that comment's coming from. But yes, we have to sell guys when they've maybe overperformed, but we're buying guys when they're overperformed, hopefully, hoping that is going to be their level.
Very good point indeed. And another thing in relation to what Quinny says, if you do make your $1,750,000 back on the two players that we've discussed here, and you get a sell-on fee, the club will probably think, oh, nice bit of business. The problem being we needed players who were going to impact positively in the first team when we signed them in.
You look at Lagerbielke, Narovski, coming back off player of the seasons with their respective clubs.
Yeah,
Kev, it's a brilliant point. It's an absolutely brilliant point. And by the way, that there's an opportunity, I think, for Narovski to get a second bite at the cherry at Celtic, because we do need a centre half. We absolutely do need a backup centre half. McLaughlin, first we've won 4 games in a row since last November. It's the Martin O'Neill effect. I remember after it, people were saying on social media, journalists, etc., that the Martin O'Neill effect's been overblown. No, it's not. It absolutely has not been overblown. The impact he has made has been pretty sensational.
Only if you're Tom English.
I wasn't going to name any names.
I'll name him.
Shoulder to hand, says Weebree. Aye, it hit his hand. It is what it is, says Get a Grip.
I just didn't like the rule, and I've said that plenty on Mondays. I think the handball rule is absolutely shocking. I do not like the rule. That's it. I didn't like the offside rule either. And I do not blame the inept officials that we have at times when they come to the decisions that they come to because of the rule.
Well, ineptitude in two different areas. You've got the person making a decision using a system that's also inept, so it doesn't really work. I want to talk a wee bit about Yang. I think you've been very positive in the past, Quinny, about Yang. Is this his best patch of form for Celtic? Because I'm looking at a player now who seems to have a lot of confidence. I mean, there was 2 moments against Hibs where he's gone on a mazy. He's gone on a mazy. On the first occasion, I think the sun got in his eyes and he didn't quite get the shot. And second time he did, he's playing with a bit of freedom. I mean, he's now a first pick, despite the fact, sorry to moan about recruitment again, that we spent £10.2 million on 2 wingers and Yang's your first choice again. Playing well, isn't he?
Yeah, I just want to say that the handball thing absolutely melted me yesterday. I'm still raging about it, and I covered it in my post-match breakdown in no short order. I just want to say on this, why does he get sent to the VAR? Handball's black or white, it's handball or not, yeah? So they've looked at it, and when you look at it, you know, like we've got 6 tellies in this little cabin, but we can't see. So you walk across the pitch to the one TV, and then you look and you decide. I couldn't believe that, you know, as a fat thing, number one. And number two, when you look at it, like, yeah, his hand is like down here or something, right? But it firmly is like, he's going to head it and, you know, the ball's ricocheted. I could not believe it for the life of me. So I just wanted to get that out there. And on the Yang thing, sorry.
But Quinny, you're saying they're watching 6 tellies, but they're watching reruns of Dawson's Creek on them. They're not actually watching the game, eh?
So they couldn't pause it. And they're like, listen, we can't pause this. So you're going to need to go and do your work for yourself here. You know, like we're in the middle of this. We need to know what happens. Yeah, I can see it, man. But with the Yang thing, I think that maybe comes in quite all right, because I wouldn't say I've been like positive on Yang, right? Gang's some great banter, and I like him and all the rest of it. But it's very similar to Scales for me, where I just feel a lot of criticism that they've received when they've received it has been a little bit just out of balance, because like Scales and Yang, like if you listen to me ever being like positive on them like a year ago or something, it normally boils down to really what more do you want out of a guy? And with Yang, it was always he needs to score some tap-ins and he needs to actually like set somebody else up for a tap-in or something. But other than that, he's strong, he's got good energy, he runs at people and get by the first man well enough most of the time. And, you know, like he'll put his head in where it hurts. We've seen that more than once, never mind just at the weekend. And all the time where he's not, you know, how many appearances he had for us? He's been verging on 100 or something at this stage. He's just had so many games where he doesn't actually complete a pass for the 40 minutes he's on the pitch, or he doesn't really get a shot on goal. He doesn't really actually do anything. And you can criticise guys like that, saying like, yeah, they're definitely not best 11, they're not ready for the first team, etc. But he's not been an absolute no-hoper. He has just been missing something. And with Scales, it was quite simply like, yeah, he's not Van Dijk, right? But he's still like, nobody mugs him off. He doesn't really, and yeah, he's gave away a handball penalty and whatever else has maybe happened to him. But so again, like that's all I would say in context of it. I don't want to say like, oh, I've always backed the guy, or I've always, because it's not really been that. It's kind of like, you know, like if you look at what he actually brings to the party, he brings something. Does he have all of it? No, but the stuff he has, can we work with it? And with Scales and Yang, I've always been like, you could work with what they've got. You know, they do have things to add in, but the things they already have. And Martin O'Neill said something very similar. Like, you can see he has something to give, and if you can get that last little bit in my analysis, I said it'll be out later today, so it's not like something I'm referencing anyone's seen in that way. But Yang looks like he now believes that he's earned his medals at Celtic over the last 2 games. Like, he kind of believes now that he's been a Celtic player, and he's looked like, I've been here 3 seasons, I've got however many appearances, like, and it kind of felt like Morey's kind of grown into his confidence a bit more. Like, I deserve to be here. I'm not trying to justify it to anyone anymore, or he's not trying to play in the Rodgers system when you make a mistake and you're punished and you're right back out the team again. He's got that bit of freedom. He's back to 2 games in a row to play. And I think it's a total mental thing, what we've seen from him since Martin O'Neill's been in. O'Neill's just quite simply, you know, go and show me what you can do, son. Gave him one of them, hasn't he?
Given him a bit of belief. Without a doubt, 78 appearances now, Yang, with Celtic.
Yeah.
And interestingly, you know, and interestingly, across his entire career, he has played twice as many games on the right wing as he has on the left wing. We've got 2 left wingers that have cost us 10.2, and Yang's playing on the left wing. That's where we are at the moment. I mean, McCowan is now playing on the right wing, Kev, being replaced by Nika, and neither of the 2 of them are right wingers, if you ask me. It would be a great situation to get one out.
If I can add a wee thing into this, sorry, I cut you off there. But see, yesterday, we are all going to remember this, like right now, is Yang crossed that ball in for Engels' header, yeah? If you actually look at all the data websites, it's not recorded as a Yang assist because it comes off the back of the guy. Yang's had that happen to him twice already, whether like he's maybe crossed it in and it's been an OG and you don't get an assist for an OG or whatever. So like he's lost like 3 things over his Celtic years to like, you know, just crap like that or whatever. And again, it's a problem with statistics where like if you live and die by them alone, they don't tell you everything, you know, about a guy, you know, and again, like thinking about Yang's record or whatever, like it won't paint a true reflection because like even for this season, he's missed something that we all know and seen that he did make that.
Of course, that's every day of the week. That's a Yang assist. That's a good point as well, by the way, because I was going to say in his 78 games, 9 goals, 9 assists, but he's obviously lost a few because it's ricocheted off somebody. But yes, I'm looking at it now. The best situation for me is that maybe Chuneki finds his early form, maybe Balakwisha finds some kind of form, and we can have 2 wingers with Yang down the right if he's able to maintain it, and one of the new guys down the left. But there's a few other good comments coming in. Before I get to them, though, Kev, we're talking about away days at the beginning of the show, and you're a seasoned away game attendee. Auchinleck Talbot, you ever been there?
No.
You fancy it?
I noticed that they actually came out and says that they had sold out of their hospitality packages. I think, again, if Auchinleck had any brains, and they would move it. They would try to move it to Kilmarnock or somewhere down there.
Someone in the chat said they can't do it. The rules have changed. The chat said that at the beginning. Yeah, the chat said that earlier.
Romanticism, Kev. A romanticism of playing it at the home park, though, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. It's one of the type of games I probably would love to go to, but trying to get a ticket. I remember being at Peterhead a couple of years ago. Well, that's probably 10 years. And then Arbroath took us to a replay on a Tuesday night, and Adam Matthews scored an absolute reeker that night. Sometimes it's good going to the Davy grounds. So I would fancy it. Depends when it is. It'll probably end up at 5:30 on a Friday night or something like that. Like
you'd love it to be live. You'd love it to be live for the club. You'd want the club to make as much money as they possibly can.
Oh, it's guaranteed it will be live. That goes back to what you says regarding clubs selling tickets to Celtic. There's a big hoo-ha down in England about the EPL, about them only having 1 game on Boxing Day when they used to have a full card on Boxing Day. And what's the game that they've picked live to be shown on Sky on Boxing Day? Manchester United v Newcastle United. So Manchester United, massive worldwide audience. Newcastle as well. So that when you're talking about audience reach, so we will be one of the premier sports games against Auchinleck that weekend. It'll probably end up a Sunday afternoon at 1:15 or something like that.
Fair
going
play.
into deep,
I'm looking
deepest,
forward to it.
darkest Ayrshire.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do against Kairat, but I'm pretty sure that we'll find
Wait,
out
wait,
soon
wait.
enough.
With regards to Yang, I put a wee jokey comment yesterday that Martin O'Neill's Bobby petted him. It's like,
Remember though, Kev, we asked Bobby about that, and he gave the credit to Tommy Burns.
yes.
He gave the credit to Tommy. Tommy took him under his wing and helped him with his confidence, built his confidence up. He did a tough first season under Barnes and Dalglish, written off by just about everybody. And Bobby Petter says it was Tommy Burns that done the man management side of it, and obviously O'Neill had the belief in him to play him.
The other thing that I'm going to say that I've noticed that recently, when you're actually talking about Luke McCowan playing on the right-hand side, I've noticed quite recently that Luke McCowan seems to have took the Greg Taylor influential role in the dressing room. Like when the players are going up to the fans and he was scooshing water on Dyson, and I've seen that in a couple of games now where he seems to have took, since Martin's came in, he seems to have come more to the fore as one of the lieutenants of the dressing room.
It's good to see. It's good to see, Kev.
I've seen him in the post-match, like when they were all on the pitch, he was like going up to like Engels and saying like, "Well done for your goal," as if he was the captain. You had that kind of like post-match chat with everyone, you know, like, "Oh, well done today, pal." And
I also think he was trying to shove Engels to do the jump, and Engels was not having any as well.
Too cool for school. But he's been a captain previously, McCowan, so I can understand why. Now, when we're talking about the new manager, we've got a few minutes to go. Apologies for anybody who originally came in on the stream. There was gremlins in the system, and we reset it, and it works fine. And that is
Did he chuck water on them?
That's the extent. Absolutely no. You know, there's a Gremlins 3 coming out, Kev, right? Absolutely delighted to hear that news.
Just leave it alone.
Give us it. No, give us it. Absolutely. Give us it now that we can actually see decent effects, because the effects haven't aged well. So when you think about Tisdale, who we've spoken about in relation to, I'm not going to give you too much details about his meeting with Dermot Desmond, but obviously there was a meeting, a random meeting between the two men. Dermot Desmond kept that in mind, and he was promptly recruited as a football doctor. He's playing a massive part in the identification of the new gaffer, Quinny. And then, of course, come January, I reckon it's make or break for the entire season. Martin O'Neill has breathed new life into 3 competitions for me. He's got us into the League Cup final. The Europa League was one of the ones I heard a lot of comments saying, just play a second string. Doesn't matter anymore. He's breathed new life into that tournament. And he's got us right back into the title race. No doubt about it. We're 2 points behind with a game in hand. We're playing Hearts next Sunday. Martin O'Neill, I tip my hat to you, sir. And there's a lot of people saying, well, is it the right time, Quinny? Is it the right time to change manager? To bring in a third manager of one campaign? Is the timing right? What is with the delays? Martin said it's going to be after the international break. It's now going to be after the Dundee game. Why the delay? People are giving the board a lot of credit, saying these things happen, guys, But our board are not very good at getting deals over the line. Let's not forget. Quinny, are you concerned about the new managerial appointment?
No. So again, like I probably listened to too much of this stuff, but if you go and listen to the post-match press conference stuff with Martin O'Neill against Kilmarnock, it was our last home game, we won 4-0. There was a question that came to him about, he just went straight up the tunnel at the end of the game, and it was like, "Oh, you're not worried this is maybe your last time at Celtic Park? You might want to say bye to everyone." And he's like, "Oh," if you look at it, you'll really see the penny drop behind his eyes. And he's like, "Oh." So I'm going to put it out there. I think Martin O'Neill is said to Desmond, "You owe me one, and I'm cashing it in. My last game's at home, and that's Dundee's the next home game." I think that's what's happened, personally. Only my hunch to go on. And I would be very surprised the way things sit at the moment, listening to O'Neill post-match as well. Like, he's been bit by the bug. He is back on the wheel. He's back on the I think he'll be staying at Celtic. You mentioned like Tisdale's like operator of football or whatever. I think if you could get Martin O'Neill into some position where he is like, he's been hired basically as a shield for the board anyway. So if you can kind of like maybe turn him in from a shield to like a translator. So again, like everything that we said about the Ross Desmond stuff and all that when it happened, it really feels like they've got no idea why everyone's upset. Like they are like bemused, like what are you moaning about? So there's obviously a disconnect there. And so anyway, I think Martin O'Neill, I think he said, I'm finishing at Dundee. I think he's decided that. He did say a lot of stuff in the post-match, but saying like the manager should decide all this stuff and whatever. So that maybe flies in the face of it a little bit, but it's just my wee hunch I've got. I think he's realised I didn't say bye to anyone at the stadium. And then it's maybe dragged on a wee bit. And then he's went, Desmond, you owe me one. Give me Dundee, you know.
Kev, what's your take on it? It's an angle for sure. I didn't expect Martin O'Neill to still be here on Wednesday night, and like everybody else, I found out about that prior to the game at the weekend. Are we dragging our heels a bit? Are you concerned in any way that the new manager's not yet been announced, Kev?
Who knows? who really knows what's actually going on? I mean, it's quite obvious that Nonsi's been the guy for weeks. And whatever's trying to get over the line, whatever they're trying to get done, whatever's got happening in the background is dragging on. It could just be something so simple that Nonsi's just came off an MLS season. He went, I want a couple of weeks off here. I need to go away and like recharge and come in. And as the negotiations are going on, it could just be as simple as that. It could be the fact that our fax machine's not working and we can't fax Columbus Crew and somebody shot a carrier pigeon. We do not know what's actually going to happen. But if Martin was staying longer, then it would have been announced weeks ago. It would have been announced absolutely weeks ago. So I've just got a wee story about Martin. I was at Kneecap at the Hydro last night, and I was one of the oldest guys there, and it was so great to be in a room with 14,000 young, mad Fenians, to use the word that Kneecap used quite a lot. And what was brilliant was seeing all the young teams singing for Martin O'Neill, like in between the songs, and leaving the Hydro last night singing the Martin O'Neill song. It was absolutely brilliant to see. And now, like when he was appointed, my daughter went like that. Why are you? I've appointed somebody to say it's the age of my granda. I says, aye, but the man's a legend, and now she understands why he's a legend. Now she understands, like, and that came across last night when you just saw a load of the young people singing for Martin O'Neill on that the Kneecap gig. It was absolutely brilliant. I actually started laughing, and like, I kind of liked his music, but I didn't think Kneecap would be his thing. I don't think he was in some fancy box there at the Hydro last night. But it was good. I think if he was staying any longer, they would have told us about it weeks ago. No, like Quinny, I haven't got any conspiracy theories that he wants to end.
I like a conspiracy theory. No, but fair play to him. I think he deserves that. Okay, 14,000 at the Hydro. That's phenomenal from Kneecap. And a big shout out to Don Mackay for signing it off. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. Still trying to get that interview. Yes, we are going live with Paul Elliott later on this month. This is the 1st of December. Nice fresh start for everybody. 21st, 3 weeks down the line. Paul Elliott, one of my favourites from the dark old days of the late 80s and early 90s. Some tickets still available, link under the video. Got to thank everybody for getting involved today. Apologies again, there was a slight delay. We're blaming StreamYard or YouTube, but we got there in the end. Thank you, every one of you, for getting involved. If you like what you hear, give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And thanks once again to Quinny and Kev Graham for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you.